When we saw the Rooster Tails cover up Steve and they went that way and we were kind of here, we knew that was our open path. Let's just get in there, chop it, hang it real tight, try and just shorten this turn. And we knew we were geared short and prop short, so I knew I'd squirt out pretty good from 1 to 2 and then coming back in. And it's such a short course down there now. Unfortunately, a lot of these races, they like to say races ain't won in the first turn, so everybody got to hold their lane. Everybody got to be careful.
It's won in the first turn.
Half of these races were won in the first turn. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, that clean water's a big deal.
And when you're evenly matched boats and somebody comes out of the turn first and they're in that clean water and 2 are right behind you battling out, then that guy up front is able to stretch it out a couple of seconds. And then before you know it, you just can't make that up unless there's a big difference in speed.
Yeah, whether they screw up and hook it or do something really wrong. Yeah. I remember in 2005, before a race, Supercat, St. Clair, Michigan, I asked you, so who's the best out here? And you said Steve Curtis. So it was funny. He dumped it right in front of us. Yeah.
He dumped it, and 3 weeks later we go to Orange Beach and
we dumped it.
Yeah.
Those boats were fast. So we were,
Mark,
if you weren't hooking them around a corner.
What is about Johnny that makes you dub him as the GOAT?
Well, Steve?
No, he's asking what he's trying to put me on the spot.
Okay.
I'm partial because I've been a running mate with him and he's trained me. So, I mean, and through all those years, I mean, you hear JT, and you don't really know who it is, then you meet them and they're a nice guy and they kind of take you under their wing. And then you're not with him and he's still winning races. You're like, man, he's the GOAT, man. Just like Tom Brady goes to other teams and wins championships, and everybody calls him the GOAT. So it's just cool.
Make sure it's still, it's got to be the whole nucleus. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's all about team. I've always been that way too. We've had some really good teams. But
you work hard at it, and that's one thing Myrick does. Myrick ain't, he ain't going home at 5 o'clock. You know what I mean? Hey, we're going to try this. We struggled with our latest Supercat. And, the last year I raced with Myrick. And, I can't tell you how many countless changes he would try on the bottom of that boat, trying to improve it. And it just ended up being too big for the class.
Yeah, it's just too big. We got it fast. It was actually faster than the 388, but it wouldn't get around a course as quick.
Yeah, it just took too long to get there. If we had 5 mile straightaways, I think it would have been great.
Yeah, we need to design the courses depending on how good our boat is at the time. So, Johnny, family's a big thing to you.
Yeah.
I know Donna and all your grandkids and your.
But yeah. Family's a big thing for me,
Yeah.
It wasn't that way when I was younger, but then when I met Don and got married and had Jonathan, and Jonathan had kids and all that. Yeah, it's a priority, just the kids are older now, so they don't get to come to the races anymore. When, they were little, I used to, take one of them to Abu Dhabi and we'd take them here and take them there. Whenever I was racing. Now they're all getting to be young teenagers and carving their own path.
Yeah. I always remember, before every race, getting on the phone with your granddaughter and she praying with us every time. That was always a big deal.
She still does.
Still does every time. Sitting there in the boat and she's giving us the whole, you guys do good today and all that stuff. It's always a big deal to me.
16 now, and she still calls me every race morning. And Donna's been so supportive of my career. And that's another reason it's made me successful. She's always, supported it and stood behind us and get us what we need. And Christianity is a big part of my life. And, it wasn't always that way, but it came a point in my life where it was, and that was probably 25 years ago, and it still is today. And we raise the kids that way. And every race with Taylor, Carlos, Tegan, 16-year-old Tegan will call me, "Hey, Gramps, you got to pray this morning, right?" I said, yeah, let me get everybody. And we can be on the deck 5 minutes before the race or at the crane an hour before the race. And Tegan will every single race.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
And even Don will call me. Says, "Did Tegan call you?" I said, "Yeah, Don, I'm getting ready to get in the boat." She called.
Yeah.
And what happens is guys that are on my team, that you don't know how their faith is or whatever, but there's always somebody, whether it's Dave, whether it's Jordan, whether it's somebody going, hey, don't get in the boat yet, man. We got to huddle.
Yeah. Find Jim Black. Where's Jim Black at? Jim Black is the
and then what we do is another team we're racing against, like Willie Cavisa and Gary or whatever. They're there. Hey, we bring them over. And,
I've been so many times standing in that circle with our arms around everybody, looking down at everybody's feet, and Jim Black's giving us his words and all that. And I mean, it gives you goosebumps, and it brings you down back to where you're at and what's important. It's pretty cool.
It doesn't make us win, but sometimes we pray that we win that day. Nothing wrong with asking for a win.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. So,
Johnny, a lot of people don't know too. Your partners, Jonathan has, like your hat, JWB, J Wakefield Brewery. Yeah. So Wynwood, they got a brewery in Wynwood, and that's been a big deal.
Yeah.
How many? It's got to be some years now. I mean,
that's
10 years?
my son, Wakefield, year 8 would have came and went in January.
Yeah.
So we opened that. Jonathan runs it. He's a rock star in that craft brew world. And, early on, he, would send beer all over the world. And I used to not even fly overseas to do races. I'd fly over for 2-day weekends to, represent him and serve his beer at a beer fest, at a craft beer festival. So, he's made a unique brand for himself, and it's popular. It was tough during COVID. We had a 2-year run through COVID that's just bouncing back from. But that's still going. It's down in Wynwood in Miami. And that's Jonathan's brewery.
Johnny actually has a beer named after him. It's like got some. If you guys don't know, Johnny works out and it's got these arms on there. It's called El Jefe. Pretty cool.
It's a coconut Hefeweizen.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
He specializes in his stouts and sours, and that's kind of what he's known for.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, it's neat. We've went down there to the brewery a lot of times. They got a lot of cool, like artsy stuff on the walls and all kinds of neat stuff. There's one called Hops for Teacher, I remember. And there's all kinds of cool names of the stuff. You can tell there's a lot of thought that goes into it. Yeah, really creative.
Jonathan's a superhero comics fan. You never know it by looking at him, because Jonathan's a big boy. He's 6'5", 260, played college ball, but he's a superhero comics guy. So the whole theme of the tap room at the brewery, and every year when they come, all the artists come down from Art Basel, they'll paint all different murals on the side of the walls and things like that. So it's been to be a well-known attraction in the craft brew world for sure.
Yeah, and that Wynwood, it's really popped up as like an artsy place, right?
Yeah, it is, and I'm just afraid some of that's getting pushed out, because now they're buying properties and knocking down little strip stores, and they're going high rises.
Yeah, I see. Get there
yearly down there, But there's still a few breweries down there. A couple of them, one of them went under, but there's still those shops and restaurants and little nightclubs and our breweries there. So.
Yeah,
I'm just glad we're through all the COVID and everything, because it was tough through there when everything was shut down. But he's back up rolling,
Yeah. So recently you also sold the marina, but you're still there as TNT Custom Marine. So that's a pretty big deal. So a little bit off your plate.
Yeah, me and Mike have always been TNT Custom Marine since '84, and then we had the opportunity to get in the marina 20 years ago with third partner Jeff Sofer, and we did that. And he has bigger plans to redevelop a new marina someday, and brought in some other big time partners. So we ended up making a deal about a year ago to buy me and Mike out, and that finally happened back in January. And I wouldn't be lying to you if I didn't tell you I had a little seller's remorse. And but it's still good. It's we're there. We just operate TNT Custom Marine. I'm not operating or managing the marina anymore, and that's been taken over by them. But they're maintaining the name. They maintained all our staff, and we're still there. I'm just not managing it or owning the property anymore. But we're up and running with TNT Custom Marine, doing all the service and dealership and all that, boat sales.
Johnny, what's your take on the popularity and the boom of the outboard engines in today's market?
It's been a long time coming. been a long time coming. I mean, I remember back in the mid 80s working on multi outboard. Midnight Express used to build a 37 for all the drug smugglers and put 4 or 5 carbureted Merc 200s on them all the time. And, and they weren't real reliable back then, especially on them heavy boats. But as it's progressed, I used to always say, one of these other companies can start building these big open fishermen's, at least down here, because back then I'd go to other parts of the country, you'd never see a center console. See cruisers, things like that, or sport boats. And then it finally, kicked in. And then once it kicked in and a couple of manufacturers built some big center consoles, and then Mercury just developed this Verado engine, which was a game changer, just like the 1350 is a game changer. Now, it's a normality. It's normal to go out in Lake of the Ozarks or go out in Miami or Miami Beach and see dozens and dozens of triples, quads, and 5-engine boats from MTI and Nortec and Midnight and Fountain and Cigarette and all of them. It's the norm. And
Sure.
People like them. They're fast. They're reliable. They can load up 10 people on them. And a lot of guys now have 2 boats. They have one of those and they have a performance boat.
Yeah.
So
Outboard cat.
Mercury, I mean, and it is for us. I mean, that's really all we work on now. We work on the outboards and the QC4 stuff. We very rarely, at least down here, are working on something with anything else in it.
Yeah, we've been trying to stray away from that custom power stuff. I mean, not that we don't like it, but I'd much rather work on a Mercury product than anything else. I mean, it's just so much more refined.
But ever since, the 1100, 1350, and the Verado came out, it's been a game changer for Mercury. And, I remember when that 1350 came out, the first one I ran it, I called Mike DeAnnabelle at Sterling because we won many championships with Mike's equipment. And I said, dude, you better get on the stick if you want to keep selling these engines because these things are unbelievable.
Yeah.
Not only are they manageable around the dock like a Pussycat, they got more power than you've ever run on pump gas ever, and they're reliable. So definitely a game changer with the product for Mercury in the last 10 years.
So with most of your racing career being behind stern drive engines, what's it like racing an outboard cat with Taylor?
It's fun. I've done some outboard cats in the years past,
Yeah.
but not as much as I have in the last 2 years.
Sure.
And, it's been fun. It's been fun training her. I was kind of honored for Randy to ask me if I would, race for his daughter because that's his daughter. And
Yeah, exactly.
I feel an added responsibility there. And I wanted to make sure we did it right and with the right equipment and the right boat and the safety. And those boats are different. They don't have the power of the inboard boats, but they're fast. I mean, they're still, the 450 class boats are still 130 mile an hour boats.
Yeah.
They just take a little bit longer to get there.
Yeah,
The setup
there's
on them
times
is a
where
little
we come out of a corner together and say that we're racing at the same time, and we're in Supercat and he's in the 450 class. I mean, it takes a while to get around him. So
yeah, it usually takes them a half a straightaway to get around us and all that. So, I don't want to say you got to finesse them more. You don't. You got to, those 450s, even the first year when we didn't have competition, and then last year when we had competition, or whether we were testing, there was never a time them throttles aren't just pegged wide open. And we would just beat the crap out of the boats and those engines. We had great luck with them. Never broke anything. Occasional gear case or occasional motor mount, but running the boat, you got to fly it. You can't run it too tight to water, but same with the Supercat. There's a fine line where you got to finesse a Supercat and the outboard boats for sure. If if you're a little bit off on you're scrubbing speed and you got to gather it back up. So you got to run them hard, but you got to finesse them a little bit too, because you just don't have that power to overcome stuff. And it's hard to make up when you make mistakes. That's for sure.
yeah. Yeah, and Milton's going over. What's that?
Running the stock boats.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what I've said to so many people. When you're running a package like that, to where you don't care how many hours you put on it, you learn so much because you can try so many different things. Because you're not like, man, we got these things about timed out. We got to go switch motors. All this. Instead, you're just like working on propeller, drive height, weight, all that stuff that you can really refine the boat and learn a lot more. Uh,
I mean, there's times where we've spent a day run 150 gallons through it testing, and on other boats over the years, you're like, well, we can't wear these things out before we race them and sending them back for rebuild. So that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
For 50 years, run them. I think last year and the year before, both boats, I think just testing and races was like 75 hours.
Yeah.
Wow.
On a set of Supercat engines, we think they're about timed out at about 15 hours. So you can think,
On the pins, what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Total time, but as far as RPM over 6,500, 3 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Just wear out the valve train.
Yeah, exactly.
So hopefully that this class 1 stuff, you're more experienced at it than me, but try not to put too much of a whipping on me this year.
Yeah, well,
yeah, well.
I don't know. You never know. You're building a new boat. You may come out and have a ton of work to do. You may come out bad fast, and we're going, where'd that come from? What I mean?
Well, I would vote on the second more, but usually that's not the way it works.
Yeah, most of the time it doesn't. But them 1100. Well, you've run the big power stuff, and those 1100s feel, they're strong. They accelerate. They go good. They're, with 1100s, they're 150, 160 mile an hour boats. In the calm water.
Yeah.
So they're fast, and we got more boats with your all's boat coming, and our boat, I don't think it'll be a Husky boat. It'll probably be a Legroom Motorsports or something like that. And then the Husky boat, that's 3, 222s back, that's 4.
And there's that pink boat from overseas. I don't remember the name of it.
Yeah, and then you got X Insurance. They bought the old Abu Dhabi boat. That
and you used to. Is that the boat that you raced?
There's two. I raced them both. Won 1 year, and then the second year we won the championship in this one that they bought. And then the third year I went back to the old boat with Gary, and then the other guys jumped in the new boat, and they dumped it at that race and practice and ended up not racing it. That's the boat they got. So that boat they'll be in, a rudder boat.
Yeah, that thing's fast too.
It's fast and straight line.
JBS.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have
JBS, but I bet you they'll be later in the year.
And then Citron's 1100s, right?
Yeah, Citron 1100s in that 50 Mystic. Yeah.
It'll be good, especially in the bumps.
Yeah, especially in the bumps. I always remember our Mystic being good in the bumps, but
it
was good.
Yeah,
our Mystic was a good boat. It's fast too. They're fast boats.
Boats. The Johnny would always. Well, there was one time Johnny'd always call me like a couple days before the shootout and like, "Hey man, I've got this." This is how he'd break me in. He goes, "Hey man, I got this 28 skater with blown alcohol motors in it, and we're gonna go and we're gonna see how fast they do in the shootout. You in?" And I'd be like, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Nah, not really. It's just a 36 skater with turbos. It's quite close to 200. You in?" I'm like, "Yeah, I guess that's better than a 28 skater with blown alcohol motors in it." So he he started me off on this and then brought me down to this, and I was like, "How much you tested it?" Oh, he goes, "We went out one time, but it'll be good, And it was our old 36 open boat. I think we did like 197.
And we put his turbo engines in it, and me and Myrick blasted it through the shootout. Yeah,
I think 197 open boat.
Is that blue skater, John Roth skater?
388 with Roth. I ran 197 by myself, but I would have went over 200 that day. The day before I went 197 and never had to touch the wheel or the throttle or anything. And then Carson Brummett re-pulleyed it and added like 200 horse aside. And I went out the next day. And unfortunately, that's when Mike Fiore had his accident. But then it was a little bit windy. I had to pedal the boat a little bit and coast through there at 197.
Yeah, coast through at 197.
We would have been over 200. Me and Myrick, I think in the 36, I think we went 195.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right.
Turbos in the 36 the year prior.
It feels that boat felt so locked in though with that small tunnel and all that. That
narrow tunnel, the rudder had great control, and it was just as long as
it was hard to get on plane though. He actually made me get out on the front of the boat. He's like, "Hey, we're having trouble get on plane. Get out on the nose," and I'm like, "What? Are you serious?" And I have my helmet on and everything. And he's like, yeah, get out there. We just need it to break over and then we'll be good. So I'm out on he's got the thing pinned and I'm out on the nose of the boat. And finally it breaks over and he's like, come on, get back, and jump back in the driver's seat. And then, 20 seconds later, we're going 195.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Yeah, those are
Oh, wow.
things that you remember.
Yeah, funny thing, you don't remember that was a good one. Then we went like pass after pass, and we were like putting it up there on the lift to check out we were putting the props on. We got looking around like, oh man, we got a cracked gimbal. Here's our sign. We're done.
Crack gimbal. Yeah, you don't want that thing to come off, especially on a little boat on one side of that.
Yeah.
I had asked Myrick this in a previous episode, but I need to ask you, what is it like to be going 200 miles an hour in a boat, and especially an open boat?
I've done it, and I counted the other day, 3 or 4 of them, 200 or better. And man, you just got to know what's around you. You know what I mean? 'Cause you don't want to run up on anything going that fast. And you're really, the biggest thing I'm doing is just, I'm not really focusing how fast we're going. I'm just locked in on how the boat's feeling and really trying to read the water in front of me. If I see any ripples going sideways or something, I know a gust is coming. I'm looking for any boat wakes, and I'm really at those speeds. I'm trying to run the boat as tight as I can run it to the water without it scrubbing speed. And sometimes that feels like it's bouncing off the nose and the back end's hiked up. But last thing you want to do is, like, I see these things blow over at 130. You don't want to blow one over at 200. There ain't gonna be nothing left.
Yeah.
So really, everything's
like. I tell a lot of people, you're resting your finger on the down button on the trim. Yeah. And I mean, literally wide open, just sitting there, and never, I not for me, at least, you have it at maximum trim when you nail it. And then as you're going down, you're blipping it down. Never do I think about bringing it back up. I mean,
never do.
You never,
you keep going faster and you keep locking the boat in even better. Just the biggest thing is knowing that you're not going to run up on anything, and at those speeds, you're not thinking of, hey, what happens if one side has a catastrophic drive or engine failure? It's not even in your mindset. Yeah, you think about that when you're on the dock or when you're working the boat. But no, when you're running and you're there for such a short time, it's not like you're there for 5-10 minutes. You're running it up there
seconds,
10, 20 seconds, and we're back down because for one, you're covering so much ground. That there's not really many places that you can, Lake of the Ozarks. Other than that, I mean, and there you got to turn. So there's not too many places where you can stretch it out that long, Lake Havasu, Lake of the Ozarks, where you're going to get that controlled water. And every time I've done it, you've done it early in the morning, crack of dawn, when no other boats are out, and you're not worrying about that. But the biggest thing is keeping the boat locked in and really reading the water as far out in front of you as you can so you don't run up on anything.
Yeah. Those 50 Mystics are where it's at when you're at them speeds too. I mean, just big boat seems so much tamer than when you're in, like you said, is 388 with a big tunnel in it and all that. It's just.
You look at what Steve did in the Qatar boat at the shootout. You look what John Costner did in County's boats, and away boat year after year after year, running 220 mile an hour speeds that the boats just stay locked in.
Yeah, I think Qatar has 244.
Running 32 skaters through the shootout at 185, stuff like that. Those are hairy rides. 36, 388 blowing around, 200 miles an hour.
Yeah. Hey, Johnny, what's it like racing overseas? I've never been able to do it. So tell everybody.
It's really cool, because it's a different environment. You know what I mean? The racing, the racing's the same. You're out in the ocean, you're out in protected water. This light just blinked off, but the atmosphere is totally different. When I first went over in '97, there was more boats. The crowds were crazy. The parades through town, through Arendelle, Norway, through Oslo, Norway. I remember going on boat parades through Beirut, Lebanon, and you're going through like this war-torn section with buildings with balconies blown out and people still living in the apartments from years ago. And St. Petersburg, Russia was another one that we raced in the Gulf of Finland, and the boats were in St. Petersburg, Russia. And that was, I was even for that one, I didn't know what to expect. I was afraid to bring my family over to that one, so I went alone. But the it's a different atmosphere. You're in a whole different culture. And that's what I liked about it. The racing, was hard, same type of racing, but just seeing other parts of the world was always fascinating to me and enjoyable and kind of taking me out of your element. And unfortunately, I'm focused on racing, so not much, enjoyment going on outside the racing as far as sightseeing or things like that. A few places I would, but it was cool to be able to go to those places, see the country, meet the people, see how they live, and, get to go back and do it all over again. But yeah, it's a great experience.
That's cool.
This podcast episode has been brought to you by Performance Boat Center and Performance Boat Center in Osage Beach. Myrick, what all do you guys do there?
We do everything. We'll sell you one. We'll detail one. We'll work on it. We'll do. We like to work on Mercury products, but we'll do everything from custom power to the re-rig of a boat or repowering your existing boat. But yeah, so we'll broker your boat that you want to sell. We'll sell you a boat. We'll transport a boat. We'll even work on it in South Florida. We have a place there in Hollywood, Florida, so just north of Fort Lauderdale a little bit. So yeah, awesome. We can take care of you at Performance Boat Center.
PerformanceBoatCenter.com for all your needs in Lake of the Ozarks and South Florida. Johnny, so in addition to Myrick and thousands of others that consider you one of the best ever, so does Hollywood. Tell us about the movies that you've worked on.
Yeah, I didn't even remember that.
Yeah, I forgot about them too. We had done work for one of the Marine coordinators, actually two of the Marine coordinators that would get hired to be Marine coordinators for any movies that were on and around water. So when the Bad Boys movies came out, we started doing mechanical work on some of the boats. So I got to know one of the guys, and I guess my first movie would have been the Miami Vice movie, the remake. And they hired me to train Jamie Foxx and Colin Farrell to get them comfortable in boats so they would look comfortable on the screen. And we spent a lot of time doing that. And then I actually doubled Colin Farrell in all the boat scenes in Miami Vice. And those guys ended up driving at all. So I don't even know sure why I spent so much time before the movie taking them out in boats and training them. So got to do that. That was a long haul experience. They cut so much out of that movie. Myrick was there. We spent so much time staging that boat race and I actually
weeks. Yeah.
Wow.
And plans in the office. And then I would actually, that was a 4-man enclosed MTI. We actually had a wooden console with a throttle and a steering wheel and quick release hydraulic connections. And I would move that all around the boat, whether the back seat or on the pickle fork or on the transom when the actors were in the boat, and run it from those different places. Or on the distance shots, on the close-ups, I was running the boat from a different place with them and cameraman right there. And then on the distance shots, I would just be doubling Colin Farrell and run the boat. So, and that was in the Dawn Seas and the MTIs. So that was Miami Vice. And then after that opportunity came, which was fun. When it was over, I was glad it was over because most of the shooting was all night. And then I'd work all day on the boats and then we'd bring them at night. So it was just, luckily we go like a week at a time, then they go off somewhere else for a week or two. Then we do another week of boats. So get some rest in between. But that was a grind. So I missed it when it was gone. But at the same time, when it was done, I was like, let my breath out, I was relieved. Yeah. So then after that, then the same guy called me back for other opportunities and, ran a boat in a Matthew McConaughey movie with Zac Efron. That was just a 1-day or 2-day shoot. And then did John Travolta and Speed Kills, got called to do that one and took him boating for a while out of the marina and then went down to Puerto Rico for 3-4 days to double him in those boat scenes. That was a very low budget movie. And so I just ran the boats as him and then got to be Dick Bertram for 30 seconds in another boat and at the start of that movie. So that one, and then did some commercials, did an ESPN intro into the Super Bowl with a cigarette, jumping.
Yeah, that was cool. I liked that one.
Spain, the ESPN guy at the time, yeah. Not ESPN, but not Dave Spain, but I forget his name. So anyway, I've had an opportunity to do a few of them, and actually I missed one last year because they're filming some big movie down in Colombia, and my same guy called me. He was down there for 3 months. I don't remember the name of the movie, but it had some big stars in it, and he called me to do a boat chase scene in a little 18 or 20 foot outboard where it crashes into a piling or something like that. And I was all geared up to go to do it. And then they postponed the shoot 3 days, and it fell on St. Pete weekend.
I see.
So I couldn't go on St. Pete. So I had to cancel on that one. I missed that one last year, but they're fun to do. It's again, I did Bad Boys 2, also down in Miami Beach. I had to run a boat for the intro of the movie with a model, and it's just, the Porsche is going down the sand on the beach at the beginning of that movie, and we're running along the coast. We did that for 2 solid days. They just ended up cutting it right out of the movie. They never used it. So 80% of the stuff we do ends up not making the movie, but they're fun. They're different. You see how somebody else does it. I've never pursued it. I was always told, hey, now that you got a SAG card, you're a stunt man, you can run boats. I've had like during Miami Vice, Jamie Foxx's stunt double does him in all his movies. He had a motorcycle shop like we had a boat shop. He ended up selling it to his employees, and he says, John, I do this full time. Full time. He says, there's not many, back then, he says, not many black guys doing stunt work in Hollywood on motorcycles and all that. And he says, so I do that. And he says, I double Jamie Foxx in a lot of places and other actors and do a lot of motorcycle stunts. So
it was really funny to see Johnny dressed up as Colin Farrell. I mean, literally the rings he was wearing, his necklaces, the hair and makeup. I mean, it was down to the T on what Colin Farrell was wearing.
Every day, and most of the time he wouldn't even need me. I'd just be sitting there. You know what I mean? But every day I'd be in hair and makeup, getting his suit, his clothes, his wig, and then just kind of hang out,
Yeah, it was cool.
Sometimes use me, sometimes not, but it's a long, drawn out process. They take, I think for like Miami Vice, for like every day of shooting, you get like, I don't know, a minute or two a movie. I don't know. But I never pursued it. I thought about pursuing it, but I'm so busy here and all that. I just figured the ones that are done local, a couple of guys know me, and usually they need a boat. And when they need a boat, they call me, and then usually I can go along with the boat. You know,
wasn't
either double or something like that.
Yeah, didn't Show Me the Benjamins? Didn't they like shoot in your place or something?
That was before we got it.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
all about the Benjamins. I think
all about the Benjamins. Yeah.
That was. They actually showed a purple 41 Apache that we had rigged for Philly at Lip Ship because he's still a tenant in the marina, but we weren't there yet. But they filmed that movie at the marina when it was called Spinnaker Marina, and I think they did some down at Dinner Key, also down in Coconut Grove for that movie.
Yeah, it's cool.
Because I've done a few of them. It's fun to do. I like doing them. I'd like to do more of them, but I haven't really reached out and pursued it. It's just there's 2 Marine coordinators that know me, so if they got
now that you're retired. Now that you're retired, man, all this time, let's go to Hollywood now.
Yeah. Right.
Difference to do. Yeah. Speaking of that, I mean, do you see yourself retiring from racing anytime soon?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know. I think some of my family has said, enough's enough, John. What else you want to do? But, I still, if we were going overseas and all that, that'd be great. I'd be family because they all enjoy that and try and get them over. But I still enjoy racing the boats. I still enjoy the competition. I still enjoy the work it takes to get the boats dialed in and actually getting the cockpits running the boat. And, until someone tells me I can't do it anymore or I just, lose interest or something like that. And I take it year to year, every year.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But we're planning on going forward this year. And we'll see how this year turns out.
Well, I mean, you're in great shape and you don't get worked up in the cockpit. So, I mean, why not keep going?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's the way I look at it. Why not? If it's the right opportunity, the right guys, the right crew, and I think I'm in, the best equipment we can be. I mean, why not?
Yeah, and you got that with your teams right now. I mean, Milton takes care of you guys like crazy, and Randy's always gonna have you in a badass boat. So that's awesome. So
get the supplies, everything we need, and
you guys just did some testing, right? In the new MTI.
Yeah, we were at Lake X Tuesday. Spent the day up there.
What can you tell us about that session?
Came home and took a COVID test Wednesday morning, and just got over that. But it went good. We just went up there like we did the prior years, and we set up a course and something similar to marathon, and just got some seat time in the boat. And this boat, we had, tried the engines in a little bit different location and setbacks than last year's boat. And I think we ended up putting it back the way last year's boat was.
Yeah. Tried something, then go right back. That's normal, right?
We really just spent the day testing propellers and,
For
trying
people
some-
that, yeah.
get in the boat, run with me. I'd drive it. Randy throttle it. Randy drive it. I'd throttle it. Taylor and I were in the boat a solid 3 hours. I mean, we put a lot of gallons of gas through that boat, and just get up there and get some seat time and figure out the new boat and try some things and see if we can get things that feel better, accelerate better, get around the corner better. So that's all, just shaking down the new boat.
Yeah, and for people that don't know, Lake X is a nice controlled environment where you're the only one out there. There is like a Girl Scout camp or something there on the north side of it, but literally you use about 90% of the lake to have a decent little course. But it's nice to have all the Mercury guys there with all their endless propellers and things like that to go try it.
Property, I know. Every time I'm there, my jaw drops. It's 10,400 acres, totally fenced in on a private lake that's about 2 miles long. And it is loaded with deer and turkey and wildlife, and it's private.
Yeah,
you got
literally. There's like deer feeders out there, and there's these deer with these giant antlers walking around all over the place.
And you got to have Mercury racing product and appointment to go there. You can't just show up and go.
Right.
It's not what it was in its heyday in the 70s and 80s with factory teams and employees and Mercury's rigging boats and all that. They're not doing that anymore. But it's still their test center for Mercury racing and Mercury consumer side. And it's a very unique place. And I believe Carl Kiefer bought it. And when Kiefer Aeromarine sold out to Mercury and became Mercury Racing, he offered it, and Brunswick said, "Nah, we don't want it." And he sold it to someone else, and now Mercury.
Yeah, there's another foundation or some other family's name on it.
So it'll never be developed. It's beautiful. It's just beautiful. We were there Tuesday. We're the only people there, and wildlife running around.
Yeah.
But when you talk about the conditions, we're testing the first 2-3 hours. I swear, it's blowing 20 miles an hour, the 1 foot chop in Lake X. And then lunch, wind dies, flat calm, all our conditions changed. Then you start thinking, okay, did we help the boat or hurt the boat? But it's a very, very cool place. And a lot of people have been there, but it's still always cool to see every time
It's
I
got
go.
that mysterious vibe too, with the whole history of it, right?
Yeah, what a cool name too. I mean, Lake X.
I don't know where that name came from, but
It was a good one.
So it
It's a
sounds
cool
like the 450 factory stock class is going to be pretty crowded this year.
Yeah, I think we'll have 6 in marathon. We should have 3 MTIs. And our last year's boat is sold, from what I'm told, but they're not going to run marathon. I think they're going to go down the marathon, but I heard they're not going to run it in marathon. And then we got
Willie and Gary will be there.
Yep. And then our original boat that Randy Keys and Billy Allen ran, we sold that to George Arano. So Nicky Imprescia and his buddy Ian will be in that one. And
nice. Cool.
They're putting a new deck on that one, so that's going to have the same race cockpit as last year's boat and this boat.
Oh, so basically a 4-man.
Yeah, they took the deck off and the 2-man and put the
that's a lot of work.
4-man. Yeah, so they put a new deck on that. And I hear they just got it back, and now they're scrambling to get it rigged and back together. And so those 3 will be there. Willie, us, them. Last year's boat will not be there yet. And then you got the 2 Doug Wrights, the red and silver one, and then there you go, buddy. And then
that's Camden there.
The Edwin Shear, we just supplied him engines for one that's getting rigged right now. I think that Ricky Maldonado's rigging that boat now, so I'm assuming that one will be there. So we should have at least 6, maybe 7.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's going to be a competitive class like stock classes with everybody fighting for that first turn.
Yeah.
You say hi to everybody. Say it in the microphone. Say hi.
Is it? Well, it's not past your bedtime yet. Getting close.
Well, it is Bass's bedtime, but they've been on spring break, so they're going to be hard to get to bed because they've been all jacked up.
Got to unwind them.
That's right.
Get them back.
So, Johnny, tell us about TNT Custom Marine.
TNT Custom Marine. Now that we've been on the water for the last 23 years, we do a lot more everyday service. We're constantly shifting to just outboards because there's so much of it, and being on the water is a great advantage because these boats are so big now, and we got a 53 Hydrosport with 5 450s sitting on the dock waiting for 2 lower units under warranty. So, we're able to work on them. We're able to get them out of the water. So we do service on all the multi-engine outboards, cats, D-bottoms. We do a ton of Mercury warranty work. Yeah. We sell engines. We repower boats. And we still do high-performance work. But like I say, our high-performance work is mainly focused on just the Mercury product, the QC4 engines. And then the outboards. So we're sales, service. We have boat brokerage, new boat, used boat sales, new boat sales. We offer storage at the marina and service, warranty, repairs, and repowers and rigging. And our stern drive shop. Yep.
Wow. So basically whatever you can think of.
Same thing with TNT, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's not, as much as we don't do the race work we used to do. And all the race teams are pretty much in-house teams now. I mean, Dave McIntyre's worked for years, is now working with Myrick full-time for Tyler on the MCON team. And the serious race teams usually have their own camps now. You know what I mean? And so there's not too many outside shops. It's like I say, 20 years ago, we had multiple race teams housed out of our shop. And now it's those are pretty much done. Everybody has their own shops. And like MTI, like, the Husky Boat, things like that, like MCON, Performance Boat Center. So we're really focused in on the Mercury product and boat sales and the everyday sales and service and repowers.
Very cool. Well, Johnny, thank you so much for your time. This has been great. You guys, two of the best sitting right here in front of me. It's pretty impressive. And
you got the goats over there.
So
for hours. But
and believe me, this probably won't be your only one. I mean, so but thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining.
Started doing 25 years ago, and a pastor of mine from way back then when I first got into church and became a Christian, and he used to always talk about keeping journals, and I never did. And now I look back and I go, man, if I would have kept just but not even a daily journal, just a weekly journal over the last 25 years, there's so much stuff we've forgotten about and things like that were impactful in your life or someone else's life that would be nice to remember and share them. But
I know it's like all those years that you've spent with all these different people, and sometimes you don't even remember the people so much. And then you get talking about it and you're like, oh, it sparks it. And you're like, man, that was an awesome time of our lives. Yeah.
But, just listening to you guys, your memories are similar, but the details are a little bit off, and you guys reminded each other of certain. Yeah,
but the thing was about Johnny and I, there's not that he's a lot older, but it was like a generation difference. So it was the young kid coming in to him being in his late 30s, 40s and being like, oh my gosh, look, it's Johnny Tomlinson, I mean, and to him, it's like, he laughs about it. Just like if some kid would say that about me, I'm like, yeah, whatever, but, that's what's cool. It's like when people ask you for your autograph, you're like, why do you want that? But then it get, I'm just, that's what I always say too. I'm just a boat mechanic. And they're like, yeah, but I think that's one of the cool things that we're a lot of like humble, definitely family oriented.
Racing every Sunday and big sponsors and stadiums filling up and all that, but it's boat racing. Yeah. It's the only professional motorsport I know that the promoter or the host, they got to go make the arena. You know what I mean? You got to go make the arena. And it's just, it's hard to get that mainstream like other forms of motorsports and stuff, and it's hard to get the spectators right on top of it,
Yeah, it is. So I was looking at the course for the marathon race next 6 weeks from now, and it looks like we're going to be able to run along the bridge for a little ways, which before we even got to the bridge. So that should be cool for the spectators to be on 7 Mile Bridge there in Marathon for the Race World Offshore race.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Well, you guys are definitely the top of the profession, and so seeing you guys in the pits and watching you guys work and prepare for a race, it's very exciting. And then to see you guys do what you do out on the course, there's nothing like it, because there's nothing like boat racing where the course changes at any given second, right? And so, again, Johnny, thank you so much for your time. And we'll definitely be having you back on for a follow-up and some more chats. And then, like Myrick says, after a race and want to pick your brain on what happened and what your strategy was and, all that other fun stuff. So anyway, this is.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Johnny. I appreciate it.
Thank you. This has been Ray Lee with Speedboat Magazine for Boats and Bros podcast. Stay tuned for more episodes coming your way. If you like the episode, please like, follow, share, and rate. And be sure to tune in. And there'll be more episodes coming fast and furious. So, again, Johnny Tomlinson, thank you so much for your time. Myrick Coil, your host. This has been Boats and Bros podcast.
Thanks, guys.
This podcast is powered by Speedboat Magazine. Subscribe now at speedboat.com for 9 power-packed current issues a year direct to your mailbox.